Okay, the last video I want to make for you today is about working within the B6 size. Now, I ordered my paper test planner a little less than a week ago, and of course, it's coming from Germany, so it's taking a little bit of time, and I'm feeling just a little bit of anxiety. Like, what have I done? Is it going to work? Is it going to come in time for me to mess with layouts? How is this going to work? And I've just kind of had just a little bit of stress over that. So I have, in the last 24 hours, thought, you know what? You don't need to worry about this. Why don't you print off some layouts from their website so you can see what the dimensions are you're working with, what the spreads are you're working with, and see if you can make this work for you. The other advantage that I have is I do have a B6, a couple of little planners. This one is a Wonderland 222. It has a little bit different number of grid boxes, but it's very similar. So I decided to watch a bunch of videos and get some ideas about layout. And so the first thing that I did was make myself this little grid, because let me show you really quickly what the paper test layout is like. It's very similar to Hobonichi in a lot of ways, and yet very different. So one thing that it has that Hobonichi doesn't have, and I'm still not sure how to use it, is a yearly overview. Maybe kind of like a future log, or just writing down maybe the highlights of each month. You can't really do any tracking because you don't have a square per day, I guess, unless you were tracking one thing and checked in these, which you might as well highlight these. I don't know. So I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to use this spread. Maybe a thought is to like write down appointments that are a year from that date that I don't have a calendar spread for. I don't know. I need to watch some videos and see how other people are using this particular page. You then have, and I didn't make a picture of it because I know how I'm going to use it, but you then have a spread like your Hobonichi yearly view that it has, it's a long vertical one for each month. So you would have the days of the month on the side, and then 6 or 8 different columns where you could write a habit at the top and track it through the month. So that I've been using since October, and I really like having that view to use. So that I'm good with. Then you have your monthly spread, which I'm pretty confident how to use that. It's very functional. And I might have some habit trackers in some of these spaces, maybe. I'm not sure, but that is definitely in my Hobonichi. I wasn't really doing habit tracking that way, so I kind of used this column here. Whoops. I used this column here just to write the date, because mine being an AVEC, it was in Japanese. So the date was there in English, but it was super tiny. So I would write it big, like January, across so that I could read it well and get to it quickly because all the months are together. So I may utilize this space a little bit better. I haven't really played around with that yet, but I have a little bit more recently. I've been using like this space down here from like my 5-minute cleanup log of when I do it for each room in my house. So we'll see if that transfers over. So that one I'm comfortable with. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. So the way she has it set up, you have your 2 yearly views. You have a bunch of quarterly views and quarterly trackers. You've got a lot of places to track things. And then you get to your monthly layout. Right after January's monthly layout, you get this. This is a weekly spread. This is your weekly spread right here. Then you have 7 blank pages. So this is 1, and then 3 more spreads of 2 blank pages for your daily pages, and then you get your next week layout like this, etc., till you finish the month, and then you go to the next monthly one and moving on. I love the fact that they're all together. That really makes me happy. This drives me crazy. It doesn't drive me completely crazy because it is very similar to my Hobonichi Weeks spread, which I'm using to track. This is for 2025. I haven't actually used it yet, but I have it set up to track my food and my exercise for 2025. So it's not terribly scary because I have a use for it, but this is about real size. So this is much smaller. So, and I already have this for the year, so I don't need to use this for that. But a lot of people do. So that was a little bit concerning for me. So I watched a lot of videos to get an idea of what other people are doing with those spreads, as I said before. So that's the overview of what it looks like blank. And here is my little chart I made with all the different spreads, and I labeled them all the way through F, and I've got room to do a few more if I watch some more videos and get some more ideas. So let's go through. I actually printed off more of those that I just showed you, and I filled them out so I could get an idea and kind of be prepared when this comes in the mail. So let's look at our first spread, which is A. This one is about as close to making it look like Hobonichi Weeks as possible. Now, it's very distracting with all the whiteout, but I had to cover up lines, and I also drew my lines in the wrong places, so I had to cover those up. I should probably just redo this so it visually makes more sense. But in the process of doing this, okay, so I know you can't tell because the quality of the image that I got from the internet to print wasn't great. And I'm sure she does it so people don't just make copies of her spreads to use. But this is graph and this is graph. But in this section where it has these horizontal lines, there is no graph. So in Hobonichi Weeks, you have your 7 days, or Hobonichi Cousin in the weeks section, you have your vertical days, and then on the side, I use that as a sidebar for tracking weekly habits. And that would be hard to do without there being little boxes there. I don't really want to put stickers in or draw that in per se. It's just such a narrow space, it would be hard to even find a stencil to do that. So I think ultimately I decided that I would shift this over and leave this with all of these boxes as my habit tracking area. Otherwise, it would be identical to that setup. It's kind of narrow. I think this is 6 boxes wide, maybe 7 boxes wide. Hobonichi Weeks is 9 boxes wide. It's really not that bad. It actually works out pretty good, but it's 7 boxes wide. And that gives you, there's a little extra space when you do that because this is 30 boxes across, and there's no way to divide 30 4 ways evenly. So you do 7, 7, 7, 7. Oh, you got 2 extra. 7, 7, 7. Or, since there's no boxes here, who knows? So those will probably end up being a little wider, and then you'll have 2 7s or 6s. It didn't copy well, so I can't tell exactly how that's going to line up. And I just kind of measured and drew on this. But anyway, I would shift everything this way so I could have my 7 boxes for the days of the week to track. I do that vertically, and then I write my habits on the side. So I'd write my habits in like a 2-box, maybe abbreviation or a little icon for each one of those habits. And then I could just check them off on this side. So this could definitely work, and this would be non-stressful because it's basically what I'm using right now. So that is A. And then the downside from doing this is if I use this like this, then I will only have 6 daily pages to write on. And one thing I'm super proud about myself is I started in the middle of the year, middle of my AVAC, to start to journal. So this is just going to be a very quick flip through because I've done this in other videos. But initially, this is all super functional, gluing in a few pictures to, help me remember what happened. But, some days are just ugly and a lot of wasted space. This was a trip we went on, so a lot of maps and pictures and things that made that trip special. This trip was about a month long. It was a long road trip. But yeah, after that, then it was like, now what do I put in there? So yeah, some pages were kind of blank. This is a trip to IKEA I took to buy a couch that barely fit in my car, and a man had helped me tie it in there, and it was a huge blessing that he helped me. But you can see there's a lot of space. Like I separated all of my to-dos into categories, but then there's all this empty space of categories I didn't use for that day. So I'm just, fill it up with stickers. But anyway, so the memory keeping has helped. I'm excited. That's when my 2025 arrived on the 10th. Anyway, I decided at some point, and we'll see when that happens, that I wanted to start journaling. I wanted to journal every day. So let's see, where does that start? It starts here. So on the 4th of October, I was visiting my daughter's school, which is a school I went to, and it was stirring up some stuff that I wanted to journal about and deal with. And so I just started writing it in and thinking, okay, I want to do more of those things. Now, I didn't start doing it consistently, but that's where I started it at. And feeling like I want to do it some more. So let's see, where do we actually start? Here we go. 11th. This is where I'm like, okay, I'm giving myself a dedicated journal spot. I liked my layout, and I probably had laid out into the future. So here we go. There's some journaling and more journaling. I'm keeping a media log, doing reviews on books that I'm mostly doing everything on Audible these days. So journal. So I don't write a ton, but I try and fill the space, at least mostly. A lot of pictures from a trip, but the journal's under there, so you can still read it, get to it. Yeah. So I've been very consistent writing something. And even if I go back and do it the next day, it's not a big deal. I maybe had to do 2 days at a time back journaling, but I'm almost always doing it. So now that I kind of have that new layout where I've got my to-dos here, and it has not been a big deal to not have them categorized anymore. Using the space for appointments is very redundant with your weeks. If you do it here, you stop looking at your weeks, and I want to use my weeks. That's the reason why I have this one. So it's, I can just take this much space instead of this much space. I mean, seriously, I'm not going to be having appointments in the middle of the night because I don't work a night job. So I don't need that whole space. Anyway, so I need a place for a media log. I need a place for to-dos, which is, the big reason why I use this, and I need a place to journal. And I think I can fit that all in the B6. So if I do this, which keeps it the same as Hobonichi Cousin, I will have to double up 2 days, which I can probably do on the weekends. But anyway, that is a downside to this particular layout A. Now let's look at layout B. Now this one kind of solves that problem for me. So I just basically redid the spread. Now I don't know why. I mean, she did what she did. But she's got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And she has a blank spot up here. And that's fine if you have real estate. But in a B6, you do not have real estate. And so I just kind of counted up from these boxes and divided the space into 7 equal portions here. And so for the spread, I'll just turn it this way. I've got my numbers here, and I'll write in my appointments this way. It's kind of just a glance. I need to glance and see where's the space in my day between appointments. I'm a mom that has a lot of appointments for her kids, and I volunteer at their school, and every day, I'm not there every day, but the days I'm there, I'm doing different things. So I need to see what my schedule is like, especially if I need to make an appointment or whatever, because it's not ever the same. So if everything like that is here, that fits, and then I can go immediately into a page a day. And this would be what my page a day would look like. I didn't make one for the A spread because it'll look pretty much the same, but I found somebody did this and I really like it. They've got their to-dos here. This is where I'd put my media log. I'd have my journal here. And then here they have their timeline, and they had like little icons or emojis or whatever that they used to describe how each little bit of the day was being used. So I really like that. I also like to track my weather. There would be the date. That was something that would go on my weekly spread, but I didn't want to cram it into here. So I put it there on the dailies. And it's kind of interesting for me too to see like what was the weather like that day when I'm writing. Like, how did that affect my mood? I don't know. So all 7 days would look like this. I would have this, and then 3 more double page spreads that would look like this. That is option B. The only downside to option B is I don't have a place for my weekly dashboard. Now, again, I could do it here, but it would be so microscopic because she did leave a space here. but it would make everything really cramped, and I don't think I could fit 7 little boxes across, and I can't do it this way. It just doesn't work like that for my brain or for me. So I would have to figure out a different way. Now, remember, I did say that there was a lot of places to track stuff in her quarterly sections and monthly sections. She's got tracking built in really good. So I may just not have a weekly tracker. It may just be a to-do, a rolling to-do that I would just put in, check your monthly tracker. We'll see if that works, but I do like this layout a lot. Okay, next. This is number C. Now, for layout C, I did not have a specific weekly setup. I might use either of the other two that I looked at, that I planned out, or someone that I have in another spread, but I didn't have a specific weekly setup determined for this, but it would be 2 pages worth. And then this is how I saw somebody do it. They had their to-dos, and they didn't necessarily line them on a day. They just started with a highlighter when that next day's to-dos started up. And so, some are bigger than others. I'm just guessing how they would be for me. And then they started their journal after their last to-dos. So I think I would have to probably determine for that one. Let's see, I gave myself 3 individual pages for to-dos, and then 3 individual pages for journal that would be, divided up like this. Again, the journal could be as long or as short as it wanted. And I also thought I'd put my media log either here after my journal entry, maybe before it, or at the end of my to-dos. I don't know, but I think what would help, I like how this looks a lot. My frustration is, like, if I don't have a set place for each day, then I can't say, oh, I need to do this task next Thursday, and go to Thursday's day and write it down and not worry about where it ends up on this page here, because I don't want to give myself the exact same amount every time. If I don't have as many, I want to journal more. So a thought that I had to fix that would be to say, okay, I'll just put a sticky note for each day, if that happens, or maybe just put one down if I need to do Thursday's to-dos, and then as I write them in, when I get to that day, when I've finished off Monday, then the sticky note that had Tuesdays, I could write those in, and then move them over if I need to. That's an idea. But again, I would have to have a solid place of ending to where I started journaling, because I like to journal the day of. I don't want to wait till the end of the week and then fill in my journal. I don't think that was going to work well. It would be overwhelming. So I don't know. I don't know if this will work or not, but I really like how it looks, and I will probably do at least 1 week this way to see if it works, and if it's a total disaster, then that will be that. Okay, here is D. This is the 4th way. Now, remember how I said it looked like my Hobonichi weeks? I would not do that for this year because I have this book and I want to use this book. But in the future, if I really like this size and this planner, I could potentially use this, and I would have to really revamp how I did a lot of things. But I could set up my meal tracker on this side and my health stuff here, and then I could have my next 2 pages be my weekly column spread, and I've got room for trackers here. And then I would have 4 pages to put my to-dos, and my journaling would have to go in the back of the book. There are 100 extra pages in the back of the book where I could journal. I don't love that idea. Or I could journal on those 4 pages and have a running to-do list in the back. So that's an option for this. I'm not totally solid, and I'm not going to do this one this year anyway, just because I already have a week's. But it's a layout option I'm considering at some point in my life, potentially. Okay, here's E. This is the 5th one. This one leaves this set up like it is and uses it as a media log. And then I have my my verticals, and I divide up my weekend. They're stacked, which is fine because weekends are weekends. You don't have doctor's appointments and a bunch of things to do. If you have something, it's usually one thing that day. So I don't think I would need this space for planning as far as vertical timeline and seeing when free time was. like I said, they're not usually that busy or that tight. So this would work for here. Then I would still have my 6 pages left over to do journaling, and I could do my to-do journals, one every day and then double up on the weekend, or I could do some of the other planning options that I have. From moving the media log here, that would take away of that being a thing that had to be stacked up in the back of the book. I don't know that I love this, but it's an option. Okay, and then here is, so I talked about a running to-do list, and this is something I saw somebody else do with this particular planner that was kind of cool. No, I take that back. Most people, when they use this planner, they put their appointments, they just write them in that small space there, kind of like what I was doing on my daily pages in the Hobonichi Cousin, where I just gave myself a little space and just wrote them down rather than having them blocked out. I don't know if I can let that go, but it's an option. But what's interesting about this one is the rest of this section becomes a running to-do list. And so you have, you write down the date. Here's a little code to what these little dots mean, the dates of when you put down tasks. And then I would have 7 columns here. I don't know that that's super clear because the grid isn't showing up here, but it would show you, like if it was a repeated task, there's 7 places for me to check it off. So it's like my habit tracker, and that could just kind of be mixed into my chores and tasks. So that would just, as I get them done, it would go page after page, turn the next page and it starts and it keeps going. Kind of like this. There's the next page. And it would keep going like that until I got to where I decided a hard end would be. And then I would give myself some journal spaces. And then here at the end, a place for a media log. So that's kind of how it would go. I think, let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I would need, this is not determining that I would necessarily have 1 column per journal spread. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I could put in 1 more page of journals here, and then this could be the to-dos could go through here, and that would give me a column for journaling for every single day and a running to-do list that would go all the way through. So it's an option. I mean, this is an option of doing it, and instead of starting it here and then doing my vertical appointments. That's also possible. So I've got some ideas. I'm not feeling this major anxiety. So within that fleshes out basically everything I have toyed with in here. If I have more ideas, I'll write them in and I'll make some mock-ups. Knowing myself, that's what I love about these books, is because they are not all broken up into this cute little layout. You're free to move it around however you want. When something stops working for you, you start a new spread. You start a new way of doing things. So I don't feel locked into any one system. So this will work for me for the rest of the year. The only thing that would make it not work would be if I outgrew the space and I just couldn't make it fit. Then I would have to get, an AVEC or go back to my cousin or something. I would have to do something if I outgrow this. So I'm hoping this will work out. And honestly, it's amazing how similar, how this feels so much smaller, and yet it's not that much different. I'm going to just show you really quickly a daily spread in here. Let's see if we can get to one that's not so bulked up with stuff. Okay, this is today's. That's a daily spread. Here's a blank. Here is a daily spread. A whole bunch of this page is taken up with this quote. So if you line that up here, you have the same height and just a slightly narrower width. It is almost the same size. So, I mean, I really think that I'll be able to have plenty of room in there because I don't use this section. What gets covered up by this section is memory keeping, and I'm not going to memory keep in what I carry. I'll memory keep in my cousin that will stay at home. So I truly think that this will work. It'll be wider. Paper Test is as wide as a full year cousin plus about 100 pages. So it's going to be, it's going to be a good chunky width. But it will be the one thing I carry. And this is the cool thing. This is the companion book for my cousin right now. And I keep a lot of financial trackers in there and fitness logs and that sort of thing. The fitness log will be in the Hobonichi Weeks, but the financial trackers can go in the back of my paper test because there's those 100 pages. And it takes me, I need 52 for each one of my weekly financial pages for one account, and I need 12 for the other account. And then I need 12 to 24 pages. So I can easily fit all of that into those extra 100 pages, and I will have all that financial stuff with me at all times. So that will be good. So the reason I'm showing you inside of here is that I've got these empty spreads, and I've got, I think, 8 of them. I counted earlier. So I think for the month of December, or maybe I'll just do it this week, we'll see, I'm going to try out some of these different layouts in here and run it simultaneously as what I'm running in here, because this is what I'm used to. I'm not going to stop filling this in. I want this book to be finished, but I'm going to fill it in and see if I can fill in this space and if that works for me. So it should, by in 8 weeks time. Well, no, if I use every page of this for the whole spread, this will be about. Let's see. I probably can get 2 weeks worth out of my 8 layouts, but I have this little book here, and this one the grid is much bigger, but I would just have to ignore those dots and kind of set it up the same way. But I should be able to try these out and see how they go, which one I like best, which one really works for me, and do that simultaneously as I plan. So when it's time for 2025, I will feel like I can confidently go into the year with my favorite layout and go forward. So I'm really excited. Hobonichi, you need to make a B6. You'd save me a lot of grief. Oh, but that's okay. This is a unique size. There's not a lot of covers. There's not a lot of planners that are this size. There are 3 or 4, and there's some I may look into for next year. But I think at this point, even the ones I found after I'd ordered my paper test, I still think I made a good decision with paper test, even though I've got this funny little layout thing I'm working through. I still think that that was a good decision, because she really is the one that includes all the days and the weeks inside the month, in between the months. So you feel like, okay, I'm in this section of the book right now, and I'm not jumping. That's my one complaint with Hobonichi, is I'm jumping multiple sections. That's why you can see at the top of here, I've got yearly. So this takes me to my yearly section, and here's my trackers. Monthly takes me to my monthly section. I've got some trackers here and here, and then weekly, and then daily. So I'm going through 3 or 4 sections of the book every day, and that is it for my brain. Sometimes what happens is I neglect my weekly page a lot. So anyway, I'm excited, and I can't wait to see how this is going to work for me. And of course, you all are along for the ride, so you'll find out as well.